Hi everyone and welcome back to the Kenwood Kids Club. I'm Mr. Baker and today I'm going to be showing you how to make a delicious coconut and lime drizzle cake. Now we've made lots of drizzle cakes here in the Kenwood Kids Club before, so if you're not a fan of coconut and lime, why not check out our summer berry and orange drizzle cake, or of course there's always the classic lemon drizzle cake. You'll find all of them right here on our channel, or why not head down to the link in this video's description, which will take you to the Kenwood Kids Club website where you'll find all of our amazing recipes. Of course, if it's your first time watching one of our videos, don't forget to hit that big red subscribe button. And why not give this video a thumbs up to let me know you're watching as well. Now you'll see I've got all of my ingredients weighed out for me here ready to get started, but if you want to bake along with me you'll find a full list of all of the ingredients that you will need down in the video description, and again there's that link to the Kenwood Kids Club website where you'll find the full written out recipe method as well. But without much further ado, I suggest we get started. The first thing we're going to do is cream together our butter, our sugar and some lime zest. So I've got my butter here already chopped up into little pieces, and this butter's at room temperature. When we're baking we try and keep all of our ingredients at room temperature just because it helps them to mix it together a little bit better. So ideally you want to get everything ready about an hour or so before you get started. I've popped the butter into the bowl of my stand mixer and now I'm going to add in that sugar and of course the zest of 2 limes. Now I've already started by zesting one, but I'm going to do the other one in front of you just so I can show you how I do it. Now I do have one of those posh zesting microplanes, but I find them quite tricky to use sometimes, and I know some of our younger watchers do too. So if you have one of these little graters at home which has got the really small holes, these are really good for grating zest as well, because you can pop it down on the table and then you just need to scrape the lime or the lemon or whatever you're zesting across the top, and just make sure you're turning it regularly so that you're not grating the same bit twice, otherwise you'll get some of the white stuff in there which is called the pith and it's not very tasty. What we want is the nice green shiny stuff right on the surface, that's the zest. When you've done that, make sure you don't get rid of those limes because we're going to be using the juice later on in the recipe. So for now you can just pop them to one side, and then we just need to transfer the zest into this bowl as well. I've got my trusty spatula. I'm just going to scrape it off the grater part itself, and then the rest is caught in this handy tub. And I'm going to pop my K-beater back on. I'm going to mix this together until it's nice, pale and smooth. I'm just going to turn it off very quickly so that I can grab my spatula back and just scrape around the side of the bowl just to make sure all of those ingredients are mixing together nice and well. And then while I put that mixer back on, I'm going to crack 4 medium eggs into a jug. If you then turn your mixer down to the minimum speed, you can begin adding your eggs. So I'm going to try and add them quite slowly, around about 1 egg at a time. I'm just going to pour a little bit in, and then I can turn my mixer back up again to around about a medium speed, about number 3, and just wait for those eggs to combine with those other ingredients. When those ingredients have started to come together, I can go in with the next little bit of egg. And then again I can increase that speed back up to about to number 3. Once you've got all of those ingredients in there, we can then go in with our flour. Once your flour's in, you can then go in with your coconut. And that's almost it. So I'm going to grab my spatula back and scrape off that beater just to make sure I don't waste any of that mixture. As you know, we don't like wasting ingredients in this kitchen. And then I'm going to take the bowl off the stand mixer and just use that spatula one more time to go around the edges and check that all of those ingredients are well mixed together. Now it's quite a thick mixture, as you'll see, and it takes a while for it to fall from my spatula. So I want to thin this down just a little bit, and I'm going to do that using some milk. I've got 2 tablespoons of whole milk here, but you can use another type of milk if that's all you've got at home. And then I'm just going to use my spatula to stir the milk into the rest of the ingredients. What I'm looking for is what we call a dropping consistency, which means that when I pick it up on the spatula, it should drop off again quite quickly. So this time, can you see it dropped a lot quicker there? So I'm very happy with this mixture. And again, it smells absolutely incredible. Those limes really do have quite a strong smell and flavour to them, which goes brilliantly with coconut. So now all we need to do is transfer this into a regular loaf tin. But before we do that, we're going to line it just so our cake doesn't stick. So I'm going to pop that to one side and grab my loaf tin. This is a 2-pound loaf tin. And to line it, I'm actually going to use one of these loaf tin liners, which you've seen me use here before. You can actually buy those in most supermarkets, and what I love about them is it lines the entire tin, so I don't have to grease it at all. If you don't have these, what you can do is just rub the inside of the tin with a little bit of butter and dust over some flour. Tap out the excess and then just put some baking paper from one side to the other. It does mean these 2 ends won't be covered with paper, but that's not really a problem. If you've greased it and powdered it with flour properly, it shouldn't stick. And then all we need to do is take our mixture and we're just going to spoon it into the tin. Once you've done that, you can pop your bowl to the side and just use your spatula to just spread that mixture out so that it's roughly even in the whole tin. That's going to help it bake nice and evenly in the oven as well. And there we go. You should end up with something that looks a bit like this. This is now going to go into a preheated oven at 170 degrees, which is 150 degrees fan or gas Mark III, for around about an hour. It sounds like a really long bake time, but don't forget we're baking a little bit cooler than we normally bake our cakes. Quite often we bake at 180 or 160 fan, and this one's a bit lower than that. But what it's going to help us do is achieve a really even bake, and this cake has a lovely fluffy texture too. So I'm going to pop this in the oven, but we're not going to jump ahead just yet because there's one more job we've got to do before we can have a rest. So while our cake is in the oven, the next thing we need to do is make our syrup for drizzling, because of course this is a drizzle cake. Now it's actually really easy to do. I've got another jug here, and I'm going to add 4 tablespoons of caster sugar. And then I'm going to take a small sieve and place it on top. And I'm going to use a sharp knife to cut both of my limes in half. Now because we are using a sharp knife, do make sure you are being safe and there is an adult nearby supporting you, or they might want to do this bit for you. I'm just making a bridge over the top of the lime, so I'm holding each end and then I'm cutting right through the middle, so the knife's nowhere near my fingers or my thumb. And then, with my 4 halves of lime, just checking I've got no pips in there, because that's what the sieve's going to catch. And then I can just squeeze those through the sieve into the sugar. That lime juice is going to make our cake deliciously moist, but also it's really going to pump up that lime flavour as well. Once we've done that, we're just going to grab a spoon and give this a really good stir. And then we can just pop it aside until our cake has finished baking. Now we're going to add the drizzle as soon as the oven timer goes off. So we'll pop this to one side. There's about 55 minutes left on my bake time, so we'll jump ahead until my cake's ready and I'll show you what to do next. Okay, so my timer's just gone off, which means it's time to get the cake out of the oven. And doesn't that look absolutely incredible? Now, as I mentioned earlier on, as soon as it comes out of the oven, we want to add our drizzle. So I've just got a regular kebab skewer here, and I'm going to use this to poke holes in the surface of the cake. Now, they don't need to be particularly neat or organised, so just loads and loads and loads of holes, because what they're going to do is let that syrup pour down inside the cake and make it really, really zingy and moist and delicious. So just loads and loads of holes all over the top. And then when you've done that, you can grab your syrup and you can pour some, but what I would do is try and make sure it doesn't just run down the side of the liner, because otherwise we're going to lose it. So you can also use a spoon to spoon it onto places where you want it to go. Or if you have one, you can even use something like a pastry brush and use that to just brush it all over the surface so that it runs down inside the holes you've made as well. If you don't do this while the cake is hot, fresh from the oven, the syrup won't be able to run down inside, and all it would do is just run off the side of the cake. So you might need to get your adult to help you get it out of the oven, because of course it will be very, very hot. But as long as you've put it down on a flat, heat-proof surface, you should be able to do this bit yourself. Just be careful not to touch the cake or the cake tin. So we're going to put this whole jug of syrup over the cake. So do take your time, and again, you should find anywhere you've got like a crack like I have on the top, which is just perfect, you should be able to just pour some in. But the rest, if you use that brush or your spoon, just to spread it out nicely. And then as soon as you've done the syrup, grab a little bit more of that coconut that we used earlier on inside the cake and just sprinkle it over the top. This is going to make sure that you really get that coconut flavour coming through, but it's also going to make your cake look really nice as well. It also hides all the holes that you made too, so it does lots of jobs. Now obviously normally in these videos, the last thing we do is we actually try the cake, but this one is going to need to cool down completely in the tin before I can remove it. If I try and remove it now, all that syrup that I've poured over it is just going to soak straight out through the bottom of the cake, and I don't want that to happen obviously. So I'm going to leave it in the tin and in the liner until it is completely cooled down to room temperature, which will probably take about 1 to 2 hours, and then when it's ready I can take it out, pop it straight onto a serving dish and then cut it into slices, and you'll see it has such a delicious texture, flavour, it's just so nice. So I do hope you'll give this one a try. By the way, if you don't want to serve it straight away, if you pop it into an airtight container, it should last for around about 3 days at room temperature as well. So it's a fantastic cake to make for just people popping around for a cup of tea, going on a picnic, putting in your lunchbox. It's a really, really versatile recipe. If you do want to have a go at it, don't forget, if you head down to this video's description, you'll find the full list of ingredients that you'll need to bake along with this video. Or of course, you can click on the link to the Kenwood Kids Club website, where you'll also find the full written out recipe as well. If you do have a go at it, of course, do make sure you take a picture and share it with us over on the Kenwood Kids Club website. Not only do we love seeing what you've been baking at home, but also it will enter you into our Star Baker of the Month competition. Every single month we choose one of our members to win our Star Baker competition, and not only do they get their very own Kenwood mixer, which is an amazing prize, but they also get a Kenwood Kids Club goodie bag as well, which is packed full of all sorts of amazing things, including your very own Kenwood Kids Club apron as well. So yes, do make sure that you have a go at this recipe, do share your photo with us, and who knows, we could be announcing you as our Star Baker of the Month for August. Now, while I very impatiently wait for this cake to cool down, I'm going to have a bit of a tidy up and of course do the washing up, because we all know one of the most important jobs of working in a kitchen as a baker is making sure that you clean up after yourselves. So perhaps while you're waiting for your cake to cool down, you can go and do that too. And of course, I will see you at the same time next week for another fun and simple recipe that we can make together. Until then, as always, take care and happy baking.